Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining our financial aid webinar. My name is Amir Woods. I am the Student Success and Community Engagement Specialist for the College of Education. And thank you once again for joining our financial aid webinar for our Credential students. Before we get started, just a few housekeeping rules. This session will be recorded and uploaded on our YouTube channel. After we conclude the webinar, there will be time for questions with our financial aid team. Please save your questions until then. You will have the opportunity to type your question using the Q&A feature located at the bottom toolbar. Lastly, I will also cover our College of Education scholarship application, which is available for the upcoming 2024-2025 academic year. I will share the link to apply. All right, so wonderful. Today we are joined by a few folks I would like to mention. As I already shared who I am, but I wanted to also share that we are joined by Flor Gaspar, who is the Assistant Director of State and Special Programs, Anna Segura, Pell Teach Grant Coordinator, and lastly, Ashley Briggs, who is the Counselor and Special Programs Coordinator. Thank you, and I will now hand it off to you, Flor.
Thank you, Amir. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this presentation. As Amir said, today we're going to go over financial aid application information specifically to, let me make sure I'm moving it here. We're going to be reviewing information about how to apply for financial. This presentation is specifically for Credential students. Our Credential students have various specific programs that are unique to their program and their and how their financial aid gets dispersed for the academic year. So we will talk specifically about how to apply, the types of aid that's available to Credential students, financial aid Credential specific programs. So at the end, we'll go over some of the programs that are specific to your program of study. And then I'll be providing information on summary of the award timelines, resources, and how to contact us. And then at the end, we'll have information about, time for questions. All right. So we're going to get started. So the first thing is, how to apply for financial aid. If you haven't, you can still, it's already available. The application for the 24-25 opened December 31st, 2023. So this year it opened a little bit later because of changes to the application. So you can submit a FAFSA or a California Dream Act application. Typically, applications open October 1st and the priority deadline is March 2nd. I do want to notate, because of the changes for the 2024 and 2025 applications, what we're calling FAFSA simplification, our priority deadline, or the state's priority deadline, is April 2nd, 2024. So if you have not completed the applications yet, these are the websites, studentaid.gov, or if you're a California Dream Act applicant, the website is dream.csac.ca.gov. And again, you want to submit the application as soon as possible, but the priority deadline is extended for this year, April 2nd, due to the application opening later this year. After you submit your application, you want to check your to-do list on your student homepage. If you are required to submit documents, you will see a list of documents on your to-do list, on your task. Priority deadline, it's typically around end of April. It's still to be determined if this year we're going to have the same timeline because of the application opening up later. We're still determining the date, but you will be contacted. You will be getting an email if you are required to submit documents with the priority deadline. Like I said, usually it's at the end of April. Last year was April 30th. If there are no changes, that's probably going to be the same timeline for this year. So the first thing that I want to review is, this is a question that we get often. from our credential students. The first thing that I want to review is how do you answer the question that you are completing a credential program on the application, on the financial aid application. So there are 3 questions that you will see. The first one, it basically says when the student begins the 2024 and 2025 school year, in this case for the upcoming year, what will their college grade level be? So this is a question that we get often, so we wanted to make sure that we include it here so you know exactly how to respond. If you are completing a credential and you are in a standard credential only program, your answer will be other undergraduate. And parentheses would be junior year and beyond. So this is the response that you would be indicating on the application. And then the next question that you might see, well, before I go on to the next question, we have students that have combined programs. You know, there's a program that is a combined master's credential. This program primarily is considered a graduate. So the answer for students that are enrolled in the master's credential combined would be master's, doctorate, or graduate certificate. So this is a response for students that are completing or are enrolled or will be expected to enroll in the combined master's credential program. So depending on what you answer, whether you're a credential only and you answer other undergraduate, or if you answer because you're a combined, your response will be master's, doctorate. If you are a student, primarily a graduate student, because that's you're enrolled in the combined program, you're probably not going to be seeing the next question because it has smart logic. So you might not see the following question. However, if you responded that you were in the other undergraduate student category, you might see the question, will the student be pursuing an initial teaching certification at the elementary or secondary level? So this is specifically for students that are completing an initial teaching credential program. So if that's your case, which most of the students that are in this session, that would be your situation. If you're in a credential program, you would select yes. And that means that you are enrolled in a program that leads to a first teacher certification. Teacher certification allows an individual who holds at least a bachelor's degree to teach at a K-12. So that's basically what the teacher certification means. And then finally, this is another question that you will see that might also be confusing. If you are a student and enrolled in the master's credential combined, or a student completing just the credential, and you see the question, when the student begins, the following year, which is a 24-25, will they already have their first bachelor's degree? The majority of you will have already graduated with a bachelor's degree. If you are pursuing a credential or a master's, that means that you already completed your bachelor. So you would be selecting yes. And this means that you're selecting yes if the student, it means you, has or will have a bachelor's degree or a degree that is equal to a bachelor's degree from a school in another country, or could be here, by 2024. So these are the 3 questions that you will see at the start of the application. And we just wanted to provide clarification as to what is that you are responding to, what would be your response to the credential. In this case, if you are enrolled in a credential program. Okay, so now that we talked about that, now I'm going to start with the type of financial aid that's available to you as a credential student. So the first thing that is available to students is the state university grant. The state university grant is available to students completing their initial teaching preparation credential program. Again, it's very important to note initial. If you have a prior preliminary or clear credential, if you already completed one, this program is not available to you. This is only if this is your initial teaching preparation program. CSUC pays for state tuition charged by the university, either for half-time or full-time enrollment. And then the award timeline, so this one is awarded at the beginning of the school year. So if you're a new student starting in the fall, we typically start awarding in April. If you are enrolled, if you're starting in the spring semester as a new student, you typically begin awarding students in November of the prior year. So if you start in the spring, which is the semester starts end of January, usually by the November before, you would have already an offer, or at least by then, that's when we begin doing the offers. And then if you are a continuing student, so if you were enrolled last year or the prior year, we begin awarding students in June. So all the continuing students, packaging begins in June. I do want to note that this year, the 2024 and 2025 is a little bit different. So for 24-25, due to FAFSA simplification, that's one of the main things, major changes happening for this upcoming year. The application is very different. As a result, our processes are going to look different in terms of how when we load the new applications, it requires a new, essentially new software, new ways to read the data. So as a result of that, there will be delays for this upcoming year. But it could be not just because of FAFSA simplification. There are various factors, depending on if you complete your application on time, if you have missing information like verification documents, all of these things can impact the timeline of your actual offer. So just make sure that when you submit your application, you are checking your email, you're checking your task on your homepage to see if there's anything that's pending on your end. But yeah, this year for the upcoming award year, there will be some delays because we are still working on getting our system ready to load the new applications. What are the requirements? So just very quickly, the requirements to receive this grant. So priority is given to students with the highest financial need. So it's going to be based on the Student Aid Index, or SAI. So this is one of the changes to the application. Before, the information that we will get from the application that determine your eligibility was the expected family contribution. Now it's called the Student Aid Index. You have to be a California resident or eligible AB 540 status approved. This is for California DREAM Act applicants. And then you cannot be in default on a student loan, not owe a repayment for a previously received student grant. You have to meet satisfactory academic progress. And this is for new students, you don't have to worry about this. For our continuing students, we review your academic progress every year. So as long as you're meeting our standards, you can continue to receive financial aid. And then minimum half-time enrollment of 6 units is required to be enrolled. And then also, you cannot receive another tuition designated award. So what does that mean? If, for example, if you're getting a Cal Grant or a VA benefit, a CalVIT waiver, athletic scholarship, anything that pays your tuition already, could be maybe from your employer, anything that pays your tuition. If you are receiving a grant that pays or a scholarship that pays your tuition, then the state university grant is not available because the state grant pays tuition only. Okay, so this is the first program that's awarded when you file your application that may be awarded to you. The next programs that are awarded includes the student loans, student direct loans. So these are included in the regular package, like I mentioned before, when you file your FAFSA. So if you are an independent student, and this is determined on the application when you complete it, based on your age. In this case, for example, if you are over the age of 24, you're automatically considered independent. Although there are other factors that when you fill out the application, the Department of Education will determine what your status is. But if you are independent, you are eligible to receive up to $12,500 per year in loans. And if you are a dependent student, which is basically primarily could be our students under the age of 24, you're eligible for up to $5,500 a year. And this could be a combination of subsidized and or unsubsidized loans. First-time borrowers, you would need to check your tasks on your homepage for the additional steps. So there is a master promissory note and the entrance counseling that's required for you to receive a disbursement. So first-time borrowers, in addition to accepting a loan, if that's something that you are interested in, you have to complete 2 additional steps in order to get a disbursement. And what is the timeline for this? So just like with the state university grant, if you qualify for loans or if you offer student loans, the timeline is very similar to the state grant. If you are a new student in the fall, starting in the fall semester, awards typically begin around April. A new spring student starting in the spring, that usually begins around November, and then continuing students June. Students may be eligible, so you may be eligible for additional loans, but an additional application is required. So you can visit our webpage, fullerton.edu/financial aid/credentials for more information on a Parent Plus loan if you're a dependent student, or a private student loan. So there are additional loans that if you are interested, you can apply and you can get more information on our webpage. And as I mentioned before, because of FAFSA simplification, you will see that awarding starting for this upcoming year a little bit later. And at this point, we're probably going to be anticipating, instead of April, probably around May, since we will be loading applications in April. And in the past, normally that happens in March. Okay, so now that I reviewed the state university grant and the direct loans, I'm going to talk about, the next thing that's available, it's a middle class scholarship. And then I'm going to talk about the specific programs that will require an additional application. But the middle class scholarship, it's a new program, a newly expanded program that is available to our teaching credential students as well. The middle class scholarship, like I said, it was newly expanded. It was expanded for the 22-23 academic year, and it's available to families with income and assets of up to $217,000 for this current year. Available to students, again, you have to be completing your initial teaching preparation program, and then MCS can pay for tuition and other education-related expenses. This, or what we call MCS, the award timeline, MCS doesn't pay until after we can verify your enrollment. However, typically we don't get the final rosters until the semester has started. So in the fall, we usually begin awarding around November, especially with the expansion of the program and the changes that happened, that were implemented to the program. Awarding usually happens in November, which means that if you have already covered all of your tuition, all of your expenses, this will result in a refund. If you are a spring-only student, you start in the spring semester. We usually begin awarding the spring students around March, and that's actually when we begin dispersing for the spring semester as well. And again, these timelines can be impacted by various factors, such as when your application is completed, changes to your other financial aid that received, or require verification documents. So these factors will impact the timeline or when you will see if you qualify for a middle class scholarship. What are the requirements? So for this program, you have to be enrolled. This is available to undergraduate students as well to students pursuing their initial teaching credential. You have to complete a FAFSA or a CADA, a California Dream Act, by March 2nd. For this current year, 24-25, upcoming year, it's April 2nd, the priority deadline. And you have to meet state financial aid requirements. This means that you have to be a California resident, U.S. citizen, or permanent resident requirements for non-resident tuition exemption, which is the AB 540, and maintain satisfactory academic progress, not be in default on a student loan, or be incarcerated. So these are the general requirements that are applicable to all of our state programs that are all of our programs that are administered by the California Student Aid Commission. And finally, in addition to meeting the requirements of the income and these general requirements, because other aid, other financial aid, other gift aid that you receive can impact the amount of the middle class scholarship, you have to qualify for a minimum of $90 per year in order to even be considered for MCS. And MCS, the amounts will look very different for every student, because every student, will have a different family contribution based on the family's income, and also based on your available resources, which includes your cost of attendance. The formula will include the cost of attendance minus your other gift aid that you are receiving in the school. So there's various factors that will impact if you do qualify for middle class scholarship. That can change throughout the academic year and can change your final offer if you have been awarded one. Okay, so now we're going to go, after going over the middle class scholarship, we're going to talk about federal funding for credential students. And then after that, I will conclude with the other specific credential programs. So now I'm going to go ahead and give it to Ana.
Good evening. My name is Ana Segura. I'm the Federal Pell Grant Counselor here at Cal State Fullerton. And I'm just going to go over with you guys a couple of slides regarding federal aid. So the first one that we're going to go ahead and talk about today is the Credential Pell Grant. Credential Pell Grant is for students who are enrolled at least half-time. Half-time is 6 units or more in an initial post-baccalaureate teacher certification or licensure program. And I just want to emphasize again on that initial credential. I know that Floyd brought it up earlier, that initial is something very important to take into consideration and to keep in mind as you guys are going through your studies. We will only pay, you're only eligible to use Pell for your initial credential. So that's the first one. We do keep in contact with College of Education to confirm whether you're working on your first or your second, just so that we make sure that we're following federal guidelines. Disbursement timeline, again, it definitely depends, but it does take approximately 2 to 4 weeks after the university census, which is typically the 5th week of the semester. We just need to make sure that you are in those classes so that you're we need to make sure that you're in approved credential program and approved classes that are focused towards your credential. There are some changes coming to the 24-25 FAFSA application that will also go ahead and make changes to how much a student is eligible for in federal Pell. Because they're expanding the formula to how much students are eligible for. We're no longer going by the EFC number. We're going by the Student Aid Index, which is the SAR, which is replacing the EFC. So those are just some things to take into consideration when looking into if you're eligible for Pell Credential or not. And we at Cal State Fullerton, we know if you're eligible or not based on the programs you are. So it's always good if you guys are more than welcome to go ahead and give us a call if you're not sure, if you're not clear. But we have certain reports that we pick up, and we're able to show and see what students are eligible, which ones are not, and then we go ahead and start the process at that point. Again, it's important to know, though, that the disbursement timeline changes based on if when your FAFSA application was received, verification documents, things like that we need, that does delay the time. Next slide. So there are other requirements, not just, if you are in an eligible program and eligible classes. So there's other things that we need to look at. So students are eligible for a payment if the program does not lead to a graduate degree. The program consists of courses that are required by state to receive a professional certification or licensing credential to be employed as a teacher in an elementary or secondary school in that state. Student must be enrolled in a minimum of 6 units of approved courses in an approved program. And that's something that we go ahead and look at once we get the list of students that are in the programs. Students must also be within the Pell Lifetime Usage, the Pell LEU, which, as some of you may know, is 600% or 6 full-time years. So just because you haven't used up all that 600% doesn't mean you're eligible for it. Again, we do have to go ahead and take into consideration for the 23-24, your EFC, 24-25, we're still looking into how that will go ahead and affect students as far as what will make them eligible, what won't. The 24-25 SAI, because they will take into factors such as the SAI, the family size, federal poverty guidelines, which will determine the eligibility and the amount that students get. So they're moving over into what we call enrollment intensity, or what the U.S. Department of Education is calling enrollment intensity. So it is going to change. It's not going to look as similar as to, to what we currently have. So these are some things to take into consideration. You're good. You're right. You're right on time. And then we also have a Teach Grant. So the Teach Grant is a federal grant that provides up to $4,000 per year to students who are completing or plan to complete coursework to begin a career in teaching. This is an obligation grant, which means you do need to go ahead and teach as a full-time teacher for 4 years in a high-need field that serves low-income students. So a lot of the times we ask or require students, to really think about this because an obligation grant essentially will turn into a loan if this is something that is not completed in a timely manner. So grant recipients must agree to teach under those conditions, at least 4 years within 8 years of ceasing enrollment at the school where the grant was received. Failure to complete the Teach Grant eligible program or the agreed upon teaching service will go ahead and turn into a loan and repay the full amount of grants received with interest. So this is what I mean when I say the Teach Grant is an obligation. The award timeline for this is approximately 4 to 6 weeks after university census, and time again can vary depending on when the student submits the Teach Grant certification online form. As long as you turn it in before your semester is completed at Cal State Fullerton, or your year, that's kind of when we pass it. If you complete it after you're gone, of course, we can no longer honor it. So that's something to also take into consideration. We can go ahead and move on. And then who's eligible? Anyone with a post-baccalaureate teacher certificate, anyone who's going into who has a post-baccalaureate teacher certification or credential program, undergraduate students who are with approved certification from the College of Education regarding the various pathways to becoming a high-need field teacher. And by page 2 of this, I mean that we have our own process as to how we do it at Cal State Fullerton. You can always find this process on our homepage of CSUF Financial Aid under undergraduate or credential. It says on there teach, but students who are undergrad are eligible to see if they're able to receive the Teach Grant. But there's one more step that we're requesting from undergrads, is that they go ahead and visit the College of Education, that they meet with an advisor to make sure that they are on track to become a teacher. We would hate for an undergrad to get so excited for this grant and then kind of decide last minute that maybe teaching wasn't for them, it's not their thing, and now they're gonna, if it's not for them, then they're gonna have to repay that grant later on. Graduate students who are pursuing masters, current or former teachers pursuing masters, alternative certification route, or retirees from other profession pursuing masters. And then what are the requirements? In order to be eligible for this grant, you must achieve and maintain a GPA of 3.25 on a 4.0 scale. The way that we go ahead and determine what GPA we'll be using. If this is your first year as an undergrad, we'll look at your cumulative high school GPA, or whatever the most recently completed payment period is. We'll go ahead and look at that. So for example, if maybe you applied for it in the fall and your first time undergrad, and we're looking at your high school GPA and it's not where it should be, but in the fall, you get it up to where it could be, you'll be eligible for it in the spring. So that's what we mean by the most completed payment period. Continuing undergrad through the most recent completed payment period as well. First payment period graduate, and continuing graduate through most recent completed payment period. So we're just making sure that it's the most recent term that's completed. Or if you're having trouble keeping up with the 3.25, it's a lot, whatever the case may be, we can also take ACT, SAT, GRE test scores as long as you've scored in the 75th percentile. And it's single test subjects are fine. And once you go ahead and provide us with that documentation, your eligibility is immediately, and you remain eligible. And where you can find the TEACH application process, the first thing you want to go ahead and do is you want to submit your FAFSA or your FAFSA application. You want to go ahead and submit the TEACH grant certification online form, which is available under forms and appeals on our financial aid financial aid webpage. You also have to complete 2 items in order for us to go ahead and review and see if you're eligible. You need to complete the TEACH grant counseling and agreement to serve, which can be found at studentaid.gov. The TEACH grant counseling is just giving you students more information as to the importance of the TEACH grant, what the requirements are, what the obligation is. And the agreement to serve is pretty much saying, I understand that this grant is an obligation grant, that I know that if I don't get this done in a certain timely manner, that this will turn it into a loan. The TEACH grant counseling is similar to the student loan counseling when someone's taking out student loans, and the agreement to serve is very similar to the master promissory note when someone goes ahead and decides that they're going to take out student loans. You can find all this at studentaid.gov. You can even find more information regarding the TEACH grant. And again, the processing of payment is about 4 to 6 weeks after applications are submitted. And I'm going to go ahead and give it back to Flor.
Thank you, Anna. Okay. So we are talking about credential program specific or credential specific programs. The next one that we're going to review is Cal Grant. So there are Cal Grant teaching credential benefits available to students pursuing their initial credential. So who can apply or who's eligible for a Cal Grant? It is very limited. Undergraduate students or undergraduate Cal Grant A and B recipients who enroll in a teaching credential program after they receive their bachelor's degree may be eligible to renew their Cal Grant award for an additional year. You can apply for a TCP or a teaching credential program benefits after completing your bachelor's degree and after being accepted into a teaching credential program at Fullerton. So the key to getting a Cal Grant is that you need to have been a recipient. You need to have had a Cal Grant, received a Cal Grant during your senior year, your last year as an undergraduate. So if you got a Cal Grant payment during your senior year, and then you're starting a credential program within 15 months of getting your bachelor's, you can request a 1-year extension. Okay, so very important. A lot of students miss, they usually miss this, and or either they don't find out until like towards the end of their first year as a credential. So you will, if you believe that this is you, if you have a Cal Grant as an undergraduate, you would be visiting the CSAC website, csac.ca.gov. /student forms, and you can download the Cal Grant TCP benefits or G44 form, and then you would submit it to CSAC. Okay, so you complete the form, and then you submit it directly to them. The award timeline, it varies. However, if you submit your G40 form, let's say, like right now, like let's say you just get admitted, or you were recently, or you get admitted to the Credential program, and as soon as you get admitted, you submit the form to CSAC. We'll probably have your information, and we'll have the roster when we begin awarding in the fall, which usually begins around July. And then if you're a spring admit, we typically start getting those rosters in November, and we start awarding students in November. And of course, moving forward, we continue to do it as we get new applications and as we get the rosters. So this year, just a disclaimer again, because of the simplification, the changes to the FAFSA and the DREAM Act, there could be some delays with the Cal Grant roster. So we usually see them in July, but for the 24-25, we might see it as late as August. At this point, we don't have a lot of information. There are going to be changes also with the Cal Grant program. So this information as of today is valid as of today, but if there are any changes which are expected to happen for the 24-25 and will be announced during the summer, so I think around June is when they'll start announcing the program. Make sure you visit the website again. Make sure that you check and see if the requirements are the same, if the application is the same, because there is an expectation of changes that will occur for the upcoming year. Okay, so let's see. So that's Cal Grant. And then just really quickly, again, just a summary of the requirements. You have to have received at least one payment in the Cal Grant program as an undergraduate. So this means that when you were a senior, you have to have at least gotten one payment to be able to request the 1-year extension. And you have to have completed your bachelor's degree or completed all required coursework for your bachelor's degree, are accepted and enrolled in a professional teacher preparation program within 15 months of the end of the term for which you last received the Cal Grant payment, have not received or submitted an application for an initial teaching credential, such as preliminary or clear credential. So that means you can't have received already a credential before. And then you have to maintain a financial need for a Cal Grant renewal. Okay, so the next program that's available is the Golden State Teacher Grant. The Golden State Teacher Grant is awards up to $20,000 to students currently enrolled in a professional preparation program approved by the Commission on Teacher Credentialing, or CTC, and working towards earning their preliminary teaching credential. So this one is important to highlight preliminary. We know that there are different types of credentials. We have the preliminary, we have the clear. Golden State Teacher Grant is only available to students pursuing a preliminary. So you could have completed a prior preliminary. As long as you're still doing a preliminary teaching credential, you can apply for a Golden State Teacher Grant. And as long as you haven't received the maximum of $20,000, then you can continue to receive, as long as you're in a preliminary program, up to this payment. So what are the requirements? Again, you have to submit your FAFSA or a California DREAM Act application. You must maintain satisfactory academic progress. You must complete your program and obtain the credential within 6 years from the date of your initial GSCG payment. And then the two next requirements are very important to note, because this program, very similar to the federal Teach Grant, there are conditions to get a payment and to keep the payment. So you must commit to 4 years of service in California within 8 years after completing the credential program. And then you must complete the service at a priority school. A priority school is a school with more than 55% of pupils who are classified as an English learner, eligible for a free or reduced price meal, or current foster youth. So these are the conditions to receive and to basically maintain eligibility for the Golden State. And let's see, so failure to comply with the terms and conditions in the service agreement will require repayment of the GSTG award. So that's why it's very important to consider and read the terms and conditions of this program, because it is funding, it is gift aid, that if you are able to adhere to the contract of doing your service in California for at least 4 years, you get to keep the payment. So if you get a $20,000 payment during your time when you were completing your credential, then you get to keep the payment. But if you fail to complete the requirements or adhere to the contract, then you are required to pay it back. Okay, so here's a list of eligible programs for GSTG. So we award students enrolled in the multiple subject credential program. We also have students in the single subject credential programs. Currently, we have about 22 programs that are eligible in areas covering art, English, world languages, math, science, etc. There's at least 22 programs that we know that are preliminary single subject. And then we also have the education specialist credentials. We have 3. The first one is the early childhood. Second, mild to moderate support needs. And our third credential is the extensive support needs. These 3 type of credentials are approved preliminary credentials. So if you are enrolled in any of these, you for GSTG. And then finally, the other program that can apply is our combined credential master's program. So we do have this program. Again, you're completing both a master's and a credential. This program includes, summer enrollment. It's a year-round program. And as such, the GSTG is awarded throughout the fall, spring, and summer terms. So typically you'll see this as about $13,333 for the fall and the spring, and then the remainder $6,667 for the summer. Summer disbursement, we began requesting payments from CSAC in April, because this is after we confirm your registration that you have enrolled for the summer, and we start getting payments in June. So this is when you will expect, if you are enrolled in this program, you would expect to get a payment in June, or beginning with June. And then what is the application process? So you need to submit a financial aid application. That's a requirement. You also submit a GSTG all-in application at csac.ca.gov/GSTG. This application is directly with CSAC, the California Student Aid Commission. If you received a GSTG a prior year, but did not receive the full $20,000, CSAC will automatically renew your application for the new year. So you only have to submit the online application once. You also have to submit the GSTG certification request online form to our financial aid office. This form is available on our Forms and Appeals financial aid webpage. This form is available typically during the summer, around September or August, right before we get ready to start reviewing the applications for the new year. So you would check our website for this form. This is a requirement to be submitted every single year. And then GSTG certification is processed in 2 to 4 week timelines, or in a 2 week forward timeline. And then once it's processed, then you sign the service agreement online, and this will be signed on the CSAC website. So you will be contacted once we certify your application. And then after you sign your service agreement and you agree to the 4-year, 4-year service in California, and that you're going to be teaching or completing your service at a priority school, then CSAC will send the payment within 6 to 8 weeks to the financial aid office. Your GSTG funds are coordinated with existing financial aid awards. If request form, loans will be reduced or canceled to maximize the amount you can receive. So a student can get, if you want to receive the maximum as much as you can, we can replace the student loans. So if you accept the student loans, but you want to cancel them to in place get the more of the golden state, that's something that you can indicate on the certification request form. Okay, and then this is just a summary of the timeline of the awards. The state university grant and the student loans, as I discussed, students are starting the fall semester. We begin awarding in April. Spring admissions for new students, we begin awarding November of the prior year. Continuing students, this is for awards in the fall. We begin awarding in June. And then just a quick reminder, some of these dates will be impacted because of the 24-25 FAFSA simplification and changes to the application. Cal Grant Teaching Credential Program, the award can vary, but we begin awarding as early as July or November for spring admissions. And then the following programs, the following financial aid awards are awarded or dispersed approximately 3 to 6 weeks after university census, which is the 5th week of the semester. Some programs may take longer to disperse based on factors discussed. So discussed meaning like if you have a late application or missing information, or if you have missing or required verification documents, that can impact also the timeline of when you will get your offers. But I think what I want to point out here is that Credential Pell Grant, Federal Teach Grant, Golden State Teacher Grant, and the Middle Class Scholarship, these are paid always after census. So classes have to be locked in, enrollment has to be verified before a payment can be made. So I think that's one of the similarities. That's why we group them together here, is that they're always going to be made. Payments are always going to be done after census. And of course, depending on what's going on with your application, it can take a little bit longer than the 3 to 6 weeks. And then resources. So we have included here some websites that are helpful for information on federal financial aid or FAFSA information, studentaid.gov. We also included the California Student Aid Commission, CSAC website. This is where you can find more information about the state programs like the Middle Class Scholarship, Cal Grant benefits, or the Golden State Teacher Grant. And then their phone number, 888-224-7268. We also included information about the DREAM Act application. So if you are a CADA recipient, this is where you would be completing your application and where you can get more information about financial aid that may be available to you. And finally, we have our CSUF Credential website, www.fullerton.edu/financial aid/credentials. This website has basically information on the types of financial aid available to you, the disbursement information, anything pertaining to loans or grants are available on this site. And then how to contact us. So we have our office hours here. We're open Monday through Friday, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. We open from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And on Wednesdays, we open from 12:30 p.m. to 5 p.m. We have Zoom counseling available. You can meet with a financial aid counselor virtually. And then we also are available through phone. And we close our phones at 6 p.m. We also have our Ask Financial Aid online, where you can message us electronically via our website. This is what it looks like, financial aid questions. You can submit a question through the CSUF students if you're a current student, or if you are a prospective student, you can click on future students and parents and submit your question. And it's basically you're submitting an email or like a ticket, and then someone in our office will get back to you, usually within 24 to 48 hours. Okay, so that concludes our presentation. I think right now, this will be the perfect time. This is the time to, if you haven't posted any questions, if you have any concerns or any clarification that you need, you can feel free to add or raise your hand or add the question on the Q&A. So I don't see any questions as of right now. Okay, we'll give it a minute or so in case you have a question. Okay, I do see a question. Let's see. If we are applying to the single subject teaching credential for the first time, we select that we are undergraduate for the 24-25 school year. Yes, other undergraduate. That will be the response. Other undergraduate. And I think it has like parentheses, junior and beyond. So that response is applicable to you. Yes, that is, so yes, even though you're not considered an undergraduate for financial aid purposes, in our system, it will show a post-bac. You're a post-bac, but on the application, that is the only option for credential students. I think it looks a little bit different for the 24-25 aid year, but that's the response that you would be adding. Other undergraduate. Okay, thank you for that question.
All right, thank you, Flor, and thank you, Anna, and also thank you, Ashley, for the support and providing this wonderful information for our students. Lastly, the thing that I would like to advertise is our College of Education scholarships. Students are eligible to apply for these scholarships, even if an admissions decision has not been made. So we do encourage you to apply for our scholarships right now if you will be joining us for the upcoming fall 24 and spring 25 semesters. The priority deadline to apply is April 1st, so we do encourage you to send that application as soon as possible, and decisions will be made via email in June of this year. You can also get connected with me by sending me an email at the email address located on the slide here. You can also call me as well, and I am here to support and assist you on your journey with one of our programs. I would like to give huge thanks to our Office of Financial Aid representatives. You guys are wonderful. So once again, thank you, Flor Gaspar. Thank you, Anna Segura, and also thank you, Ashley Briggs. And we appreciate you joining us this evening, and we look forward to supporting you throughout your time in your academic journey. Go Titans. Take care. Bye.